Before we get started, I just, everybody knows Chase and I because we're a big deal here on Market on the Rocks.
That's very true.
We have a guest today, special guest.
Hey y'all, how's it going? It's
Lex. Lex, can you give us your last name? Because I just know you as Daddy Long Legs.
Yeah, it's my personal Insta.
Right.
Ledesma. Yeah.
What is it?
Ledesma.
Ledesma.
Yes, I'm half Latino.
See, we're
You
learning.
had to think about that one for a while.
My last name. Yeah.
So a little fun fact about Lex is also in real estate. Mm-hmm. He's a licensed real estate agent, fairly new, but has been going through in 2024, which anybody knows is a tough year, right?
For him personally.
Every year's a tough year, personally.
I actually heard from real estate analysts, which I don't know what kind of data supports this, but that 2024 was the toughest year for real estate agents in the last 30 years.
Wow. Yeah.
I believe that.
I would think it was 23.
Yeah, I actually did better in 24 than 23.
Right. I mean, if you ask me, I would say 20, but who cares, right? Mm-hmm. Getting into real estate in a tough year, which in my opinion is the best time to do it, because what's the opposite, right? Getting into real estate in a good year. And what I think the problem with that is that you get in and you do well, but you're going to leave a ton of money on the table. Nobody got into real estate in 2020 and 2021 and capitalized on the market like they could have if they'd been in the business like 5+ years.
For sure.
So if you get in at a slower time, this business works cyclically to where it's going to come back. It always does. And when it does, you'll probably have a few years in the business and you'll just be making so much money. Like, well, what are you going to do with it?
There will be signs. Lots of Legos.
Is that right? Legos.
Lots of Legos.
So
now, obviously, the smartest thing, obviously, would be to invest it in other forms and fashions that are, maybe like real life Legos, like actual houses. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to know that, when the market does come back, to know that I'll have like a lot of experience. And even then, before that, I mean, I was working as Chase's assistant for like 2 years before that. So I've done a lot of like clerical-ish work and stuff. So even that has advanced me to be able to like know more things than having just got my license and having no idea what the industry is all about.
I love it. I mean, you're going to have a good base.
I think he knows a surprising amount for the fact that he's, yet to actually
mostly done apartments and rentals. Yeah.
But the thing is, I mean, I think back to when I first moved to Austin, and it was 2020. It was during the pandemic, and I was just honing in on just meeting all the people I could. And a lot of those were renter leads at the start, and then 1-2 years later, a lot of those renter leads came back and ended up purchasing. They have a longer lifespan on them, but, I think it's good to, start meeting people and just get people to trust you.
Yeah, totally. As, watching Chase, and for lack of a better term, you being his protege, what part of real estate for you is the part that you kind of enjoy the most?
Honestly, I think kind of just like the logistics of it, like kind of just seeing like how everything is like, it's all like a bunch of moving parts. Like I'm a very like puzzle oriented person, hence the Legos. But like I really like being able to just like see like how like, I mean, even just like processes from like, like contract to close, like kind of seeing how Chase like does this. And it's all about like getting this person to do this and getting this person to do that. But not even that, but just like even how the market's affected by like, presidency and like the economy and just like on a, like bigger scale. I think it's just really, really fascinating to see like, we're talking about where people live,
right.
And I think that people take that for granted, how like, I mean, where we live and stuff, but like how much of an actual process it is and how much things are affected by like where people live. And I think, I mean, I got into the industry because I'm a people person. Like houses are cool. Obviously I'm learning a lot more things and I'm appreciating a lot more things, as I grow, but more than anything, like I have a passion for people and like being able to help somebody find a place to live is like really like my driving factor. So just like seeing how that plays out and involved with like all the different like moving parts is just really fascinating to me.
What are your thoughts on Lex's answer, Chase?
I love that. See, when I got into real estate, I was less interested in the people. Not that I want the worst for people, but I was more interested in the product. I was interested in houses as a financial, motivation for people, how they can earn more money over time. How, you see so many elderly people, the biggest asset they have is their paid off house. And because, being able to sell that, they're able to retire. And I think a lot of people my and Lex's age have lost sight of why people buy houses in the first place. Whereas really the financial side is important, but also just having a stable place to live, a place you can customize and make your own and know that you're not going to have to be kicked out of it at any point. I think that's the most important part of owning a home. And I think people get too focused on the numbers. And anyone who's saying, oh, well, I'm going to wait until after we get a new president, or the prices might go down a little more, or the rates might go down a little more. Well, yeah, sure they could. But, you're owning this house for, I tell everyone, if you're not going to be sure you're going to stay there for 3 years, do not buy it. Like, right. I don't even want to sell it to you at that point. I do, but I won't feel good about it. You're going to own the house for probably 5, 10 more years. I mean, maybe you'll own it for your whole life. You want to move to a bigger house, you turn that one into a rental. And so I think people just get to focus in on nitty gritty of it. And I think they need to just dive into the fact that this is a stable place to live. You can't live under your Bitcoin. You can't live in a stock. So that's why I find houses to be such an important investment.
I like it. I'm kind of with you. I like helping people, but that's not the big thing for me. I'm more about what home ownership can do for people in respect to the obvious, what you just touched on, and then as a vehicle for wealth and savings and everything along those lines. I think that people forget about that. And if you're trying to time the market as an investor, well, that I can kind of understand a little bit more. But if you're trying to time the market as a renter, like you're renting currently and you're trying to time the market, that's foolish. I mean, things only get more expensive over time. We watched inflation at its worst over the last few years, and everybody, as they get older, always can, tell a story about, I remember when gas was 89 cents a gallon. I do.
Wait, you?
I remember when I paid for gas.
There you go.
Last week.
Right. I mean,
I'm a Tesla owner now.
There you go. Let's talk about that a little bit. How's that treating you?
I've invested in an electric car, everybody. I've been wanting a Tesla for, like 2 years. And I keep telling myself, when I do this, when the flip house sells, when the $2.3 million house sells, there's never going to be a right time. So most people wait to buy a new car until their car fails.
Right.
And, that was my plan, drive my Mini Cooper until I absolutely cannot. Then you also get this lease money for it when you sell it. And Tesla was offering 0% APR and a 5-year loan, $7,500 solar credit, that Tesla would do the legwork of getting the credit themselves. They would go ahead and apply it to your down payment, and they would figure out how to get it. I don't even have to click a button for that. Thank you, Henna Chevrolet, for giving me $12,500 for my Mini Cooper, which pay for the $7,500 down payment on the Tesla, plus another $5,000 in the pocket. And so far, this car has been so much fun to drive. It's so easy to park. It parks itself. I mean, the car can drive itself, too.
You don't miss the Mini Cooper at all? Was the Mini Cooper manual?
No, it's automatic. I've never driven a manual car.
Okay.
I think I will on those really nice spring days where I would have put the top down. I think I'll miss it then. But, gosh, the Tesla is just so nice. And, I mean, there was nothing I hated more than when I had to have people in the back seat of my Mini Cooper.
Right.
Because I'd open up the front door, I put the seat down. People start complaining before they even get into the seat. And they continue complaining for the entirety of the drive. But I had 2 people in my back seat yesterday, and we drove to San Antonio and back. And
so comfortable.
Super comfortable.
Do you find that being a real estate agent and owning a Tesla is a little cliche?
Honestly, I think it's a perfect car for realtors.
Okay.
I checked my app after the first week, and it was a very regular week of real estate work, and I had driven 580 miles.
Wow.
And now that I have solar panels on my house, I mean, charging will be close to nothing. But I also got 3 free months of supercharging with the purchase in December. So,
do you have a charger at your place now?
Not yet. I'm going to get it installed.
I would say that for me, that would be the best part about owning an electric vehicle. I mean, I don't own one, but if I did, it would be not having to go to the gas station Which I know you're not going to the gas station now, but you're going to a station.
I love going to the supercharger because they're always in either Target parking lot or Buc-ee's parking lot yesterday, and either putting Netflix on the Tesla screen or just walking into Target for 20 minutes and the car's done.
I just love the idea of charging while my car's at home and just never having to do gas stations or even what you talk about.
That'll be exciting too.
Yeah, when's that happening?
Well, probably.
I know an electrician.
Probably, yeah. The electrician who gets back to you on a quote within 3 months. So
Different guy though, right?
yeah, sure. So yeah, I think I'll probably get that installed at the start of the year sometime. I just didn't feel like doing it right now.
I get it. I'm excited for you though.
Yeah.
I saw when you were taking the videos and everything, you were like a kid in the candy store.
It was exciting. Yeah, today.
What's your favorite part?
It's all the little gadgets that are the most exciting. It's being able to turn on the AC and the heat before you get in the car.
Okay.
You know, pre-warm the car, pre-cool the car. Which is going to be great in the summertime when I'm
Absolutely.
sweating between, showings and stuff. Self-drive is really awesome. The navigation on the screen is really awesome. Just having the music start as soon as you open the door. Yeah.
Lex, what do you like about it?
Blinker cameras.
Probably the music. Yeah. So Chase in his Mini Cooper, he loved his Sirius radio.
I got rid of Sirius XM. It's not compatible
Sirius
with Tesla.
XM. So
Wow.
I am stern free.
Wow. That's crazy. You would think that would be something that would come like as an option at least.
agree.
But can't you do don't they have like an app for that in the car, like full of apps and stuff? Can't you get like a Sirius app in the car?
I'm sure I could, but
We're gonna look. I'm
all
gonna
right.
look. I'm
I'm
gonna
all
look this
right.
up.
I'm all right.
You're over it?
yeah. I mean, I got my Spotify connected. We're good now.
Okay.
See, my last car is like you had to reconnect the phone every time. This, I mean, I opened the door, Spotify's already playing.
Nice. Speaking of Spotify and music, what are you listening to lately? You're an eclectic when it comes to music.
Gosh, now listening to Spotify in the car every day instead of Sirius, it reminded me how I get stuck in the bubble of listening to the same thing every time. I kind of go through different phases where, I grew up on mostly classic rock, and I can always go back to that. I like a lot of like indie rock as well. I also like a lot of generic pop too. And now I've been like doing deep dives into just one artist at a time. So like example was like the other day I did.
What were we jamming out when we rolled into the office today?
Today was Chapel Roan.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But like I did a deep dive on Michael McDonald the other day, on Gordon Lightfoot. Yeah. Yeah, I did a yacht rock deep dive. And then I've just been going through some playlists. Like there's one that I love listening to on the way to the gym that you commented on. It was it was like rock and roll for divorced dads.
Yes.
And it was like 90s and early
90s rock for
2000s
divorced
butt
dad.
rock, which
Yes.
butt rock is
Hey.
that it, like take like Nickelback and similar artists.
I get it.
Seether, Hinder, 3 Days Grace,
Puddle of mud.
Puddle of Mud.
She fucking hates me.
Everything's so blurry.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
But yeah, it's been really good, and I feel like I've also just started listening to more podcasts. Listened to 2 episodes of the Austin Pod yesterday.
There you go.
From the car. Listened to an episode of Stuff You Should Know. Been listening to several episodes of Founders, which is
You got to get on the pod. I mean, you got to listen to Market on the Rocks, man.
I listen to my own in the car.
Right?
I do love listening to myself.
I mean, we've done them for so long. There's ones that I kind of don't remember. I want to go back to there's a couple of them that could be fun to revisit.
Yeah, I think we need to go back to the essence of this, of getting drunk on a
That was
a
the
Friday night.
initial idea.
I agree. We're going to do this.
We have to.
Well, Fridays are just so hectic in the office, and I know
true.
you limit your drinking days, as one should.
we could do a Thursday night. You know?
Okay.
What we've been doing, so this has been a big week for podcasts for me. We have a lot of episodes coming out, so I've been trying to think of content and questions. And one of the questions that we've been asking people on the podcast that I would like to ask the two of you, mainly just Chase, I guess, but
I want Lex's answer.
in the last 30 days, what have you spent money on for your business that you either either say, I spent this on my business and here's what it did for me, and are you happy with it, or you feel like you wasted money on, a CRM, or I don't know, maybe you did a client appreciation, whatever it is. I'll go first. This month I bought a bunch of promotional hoodies, which I'm spoiling it for the two of you, but will come out afterwards, that both of you are going to be getting. So, well, Chase already got his.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's going to be out of town. But those are always fun. I try to do them every year. I didn't do one last year. We're doing one this year, and we're super excited about it because I love Lone Star Beer so much. We did a little play on Lone Star Beer, which we're excited about. So maybe I'll wear that on the podcast here. But that was one of the expenses I had this month, which I'm pumped about.
Yeah, I love hoodies. So
I still get a lot of compliments on the yellow one, for sure.
Nice.
Everyone loves that mustard one. I'm trying to think. I've been very diligent on something that on that Founders podcast, which Tom Ferry recommended it, which is how I found out about it. Basically, there's the podcast host reads a biography of a founder, and I mean, this has been everything from Elon Musk to the Red Bull founder to the IKEA founder to Walmart, and then he basically does an hour-long explanation of what he learned from that. And a lot of them have been recently that I've been listening to have been really big on just honing in on controlling cost and not throwing out money everywhere. And when I look at where my business comes from, and if I look at each of my closed deals, SOI, past clients, friends, and friends of past clients have been 90-something% of my business.
Okay.
Yet, if I look at the money wasted, I mean, it's wasted on trying to source all these other people,
Can you give examples?
Yeah, for sure. So some of my biggest wastes of all time was, and sorry, Model Sean, if you listen to this, was the radio ad, which I had run for probably a year and a half. I did one good sale off of it, which paid for probably about 6 months of it.
Now, wait. Let me stop you there. The sale that you received off of, was it Model Sean? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
The sale that you received off the radio thing with Model Sean.
I'm sure you remember Sean Grace. He was on our podcast. He was with a different ad agency by the time he was on our podcast.
Yeah.
But he used to work for the radio
Redheaded
station.
kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was on a Leprechaun episode.
His real name isn't Model Sean, though.
That was his radio name.
Got it. Well, have you received any repeat business from the client that you closed through the Model Sean?
Have not. No.
You've not? Okay.
What was his? I'm embarrassed. I don't remember his name. If I remember, well, the property was in Cedar Creek.
You should follow up with him.
Yeah, he moved to Dallas right after. But I mean, I should anyway. Yeah, and then I had a banner in Lifetime Fitness on the steps, and I will say thousands of people saw this banner.
Yeah.
I mean,
I always posted it for you.
the gym was always full. I realized how many realtors went to the gym because of how many texts I would get like, "Hey man, I see you on the banner." I had one realtor say, "Did you know you had a banner?" I was like, What do you mean, did I know?
Do you think that banner has done anything for you in regards to branding and or helping you in respect to having clout with other agents when you're on the buy side making an offer?
Probably not. I think they forgot about me the second they saw the banner and moved on up the stairs. And I had several friends take pictures with it. And I was
Did you get that banner?
No, that was the worst part. I think they threw it away somewhere.
That's kind of bullshit. Because
Yeah.
I would love to have that banner.
I
in
agree.
here.
Yeah, because I asked about it because they gave me like an extra free 2 months because they couldn't find someone else to take that spot. I asked about it later and they're like, we have no idea. I don't know.
Well, that's messed up.
I agree because that would have been great hanging on the wall in front of Kemp's picture.
Yes, that needs to be in here.
I'll just make a new one.
I think you need to search for that.
Yeah, I mean, it could be in a warehouse or storage someplace.
I guarantee, unfortunately, it's either thrown away or, it's like in one of the closets or something. And that's kind of fucked up because, like, your number's on it, right?
Yeah.
And you would think that, like, someone would just call you and be like,
hey,
we're going to throw this thing in the garbage.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey,
Like,
do you want it?
Do you want it? Like, your face is on it. Like, unless you have a creepy admirer.
Oh,
We'll find out.
Can you imagine?
Well, okay. So speaking of something I need to spend money on, my open house signs. When I originally bought my open house signs, and I feel like for most people listening to them, they've seen them. The cardboard cutout of them.
You scare the shit out of me every time I come here.
I started with 25 of them. I'm down to 8.
Where are they? People steal them.
Great question.
People take them home, light some candles.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm just picturing this giant banner.
I mean, see, what I think is that it's people I know saw them and they're like, I want one of these. Or there's a stranger somewhere that's like, this would be fun to use, like, as an archery target or something. Dina Davis insists it's the city took them. I had this conversation at Austin Davis's Christmas party. Halloween party. And his mom insisted that, who's a realtor who also has cardboard signs.
We need to get her on the podcast.
I agree. I love her. Yeah.
What are we doing?
I'm going to call her.
Does she drink?
I'm sure she did that night.
Let's go. Mark it on the rocks. Dina
Sure,
Davis.
the Halloween party. Yeah, she also has cardboard signs all over the place. She said that the city is the one picking them up, so she buys them like 100 at a time. She also has a lot more listings than I do. So I don't know. Someone's taking them. But I want to get some new ones because that picture was a couple years ago. The headshot I'm using for everything was done in 2020. So I bought a Flying V guitar. It's white.
Yeah.
And I want to use that as a directional.
Okay.
So I think that could be a really cool picture.
You know Billy Madison, the movie?
No.
Adam Sandler?
I mean, I know.
I know who Adam Sandler is.
You've never seen the movie?
I've never seen it.
All right. Well, there's just there's a scene in Billy Madison, and all I can think of is this giant banner being at like the foot of someone's bed, and every morning they like wake up and kiss Chase's photo, and it's just like there every day. They're like,
Yeah.
"Ooh," they wake
Imagine
up
he's
and
Josh Peck.
there's a giant banner of Chase, and like, goodbye, beautiful, and it's just like that's what this weirdo's doing every single day with that banner.
I have this friend named Matt Utes, and I'm pretty sure that's what he does with my sign every morning.
I mean,
Put him on the book.
There could be worse things that they're doing with this song.
Yeah.
I guess that's true.
Have you seen the movie I Love You, Man?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a I couldn't tell you what the character's name is, but the Paul Rudd character, one of them's a realtor, but he's kind of struggling. The other one, his friend who's trying to convince him to be his best man.
He pays for all his
buys
ads,
all of
the
these billboards. Yeah, and they're all
And
a
they're
lot
all,
of people
like, real goofy.
A lot
and
of
his
people say
business takes off.
that's what my closing pictures look like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need new open house signs. Why don't we? Well, you have a photographer. I mean, you could probably use these cameras and do.
Oh, I get it done in a day. They're $25 a piece.
Anything else that you have spent money on recently that's worthwhile? Because we've talked about what's not.
I
So
can tell you what's not is Realtor.com was not.
I haven't been hearing good things about them lately.
That was completely useless. I think I spent maybe 2 months of their.
They were hot for a while, a few years ago.
Yeah.
But that's one thing about leads that I think about a lot. And here's an interesting take. You'll like this. Real estate agents kind of always like to brag that they don't have to buy leads, right? Like that's the ultimate flex. But newer agents, it's kind of a necessary evil because if you don't like just know a shitload of people and have past clients, you don't have past clients. You just started, right? And what I identified like in 2020 and 2021 when things were really, really busy because just organically, rates were low, people were buying houses. I talked to a lot of agents that were doing fairly well and weren't purchasing leads and they were bragging about it. I think that's the best time to buy leads, right? When the market is really, really hot. And what's ironic about it, again, is you'll get like an agent that's like, I don't need to do that. I'm doing really, really well. It's like, well, you're doing well because everyone's doing well. And you could be doing even better if you were purchasing marketing. But in slower times like now, when agents are really slow, now you're seeing agents who are like, oh, I've got to purchase leads. I'm super slow. And it's like, it's kind of not the time, right? And that's like the paradox about leads is like the best time to purchase them is when the market's good and you're probably already busy. You really need to, like, what do they say, make hay when the sun shines?
Yeah. I mean, this is a feast and famine business. And while I had a fantastic year in 2021, being my first full year in Austin, every agent had a fantastic year. I mean, I'm sure there's some that just didn't rise to the occasion, but most agents had a fantastic year. I wish I had triple down on my marketing then, because I mean, even my stupid things like under contract little door hangers that I put around neighborhoods where I had a listing go under contract. I mean, I did like 2 deals off of those. I mean, these are people who didn't know me. The only thing they knew about me was I had my face on this door hanger and that I sold another house in their neighborhood. And they're calling me like, list my house and let me buy another.
Right.
So, yeah, those were the times where people were less concerned about who their agent was. They just wanted to get in a house.
Lex, have you spent any money on your business?
The monthly dues I paid at All City.
There you go.
Yeah, I love them.
Nothing else that has, made an investment to generate new business for yourself? I know you do mainly leases.
Business cards.
Business cards?
That I've given out and trusted other people to also give out.
Okay.
Question mark.
Well, this is kind of a nice segue into a conversation that we had with Elizabeth Riley, who's a very
big EXP recruiter.
Big EXP agent. She was talking about, she mainly does a lot of listings, right? And since we're talking about investing in our business, I already know the answer to this, but I want to get it on camera with Chase. So when we talked about listings, we talked about the initial investment that's associated with a listing. So as an agent, if you can convince someone to sign your listing agreement, I've seen lots of different agents do lots of different things. Either A, they, get a listing agreement signed and basically have cell phone photos and list the property. I've seen situations where the agent will suggest, professional photos, maybe even staging, along with what's it called when you bring in furniture? Staging. And then they'll make the seller pay for it. And then I've seen instances where agents come in and get the listing agreement signed, and then they make an initial investment of what ends up being hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars, depending on the property. And so I wanted to get your take on this because Elizabeth Riley put a number that we promised we wouldn't hold her feet to the fire, but on average, in regards to what she's going to spend of her own money before the property even sells, she said that she feels like on average she's spending $1,200 to $1,500 per listing, whether that be to stage or to clean or landscape, whatever it's going to take to get the house sold. And so my question is twofold. Number one, how important do you feel it is to invest money while you're doing a listing? And number two, what are your thoughts on agents that are unwilling to make any sort of investment into the listing, even if it's sweat equity? Because I'd like you to touch on that part also.
Well, Elizabeth, go back to recruiting because you're not spending enough money on your listings. She's making so much off of EXP revenue share and stuff. I find it hard to believe that she's in the market every day, but
she has some serious production. We looked up her numbers and everything like that, and in the majority of what she's doing is listing. She's very listing heavy.
Well, good. Yeah, honestly, that would be very low end for what I spend per listing. And different people are different clients. And I mean, I know agents who are just magically handed such perfect deals on a silver platter, and then I usually end up getting these bottom of the barrel people. I generally end up working with first-time buyers and first-time sellers, which I would argue that first-time sellers are way more clueless than first-time buyers. But I would say, yeah, I mean, I'm very particular about, I want to make sure that the landscaping looks top-notch. I don't want to put a house on the market where the landscaping just looks like crap, because that's really something that I could spend one day working on. And it honestly wouldn't be a miserable day, take out the weed whacker, the mulch. I mean, I bought a truck just to do projects at people's houses, lawnmower and things. And then as far as staging, if the house is completely vacant, it depends. If the house is vacant, but the house looks nice, like I want to make sure that we probably have a couch, a rug, a coffee table, a dining table. And so I just went ahead and bought all those things for a previous flip, and now I just keep rotating them through other listings.
Okay.
So I got a garage full of staging stuff that eventually will be a U-Haul storage facility
Right.
room of stuff. Because right now they're sitting in my flip house. And so I usually will stage the properties myself if I can. And then there's other ones where the property itself will probably not get enough showings to make it worth it. And in that case, I'll do like virtual staging or something. But yeah, if there's visible, obvious parts of the property that need to be fixed and the seller is just refusing to put any money into it, I'm going to come in with my own money and do it. So yeah, I have a property it's in a more working class neighborhood off of Bluff Springs Road. And the property, when I first listed it, was just in horrible shape. But we had these tenants that were there, and they had been there for 20 years. And I knew that they would be ending their lease like 3 months after my listing.
We talked about this one. Did
Listing
that ever
agreement
sell?
started. It's still on the market. But tenants finally got out of the property the end of October. Like, they kept pushing it every month for like 3 or 4 months. And then once they left the property, I had to powwow with the seller. And I said, look, we have two options. We either sell this house for like $260,000, or if you want to get $300,000, like, you're going to need to put in some work into it. And we ended up getting exterior painted, landscaping, new roof, multiple other things on the inside fixed, new appliances. But at the end, he's like, I'm kind of out of money right now. Where can we save some costs? So I found some budget painters who are willing to do the inside on the cheap because the seller was at his wit's end. And then I paid for them to do half of it myself, which wasn't a tremendous amount. I think I paid them like $1,500. It's a pretty small house. But yeah, I mean, I definitely put in a lot of sweat equity into that one as well, just with helping him clean it up and stuff. Yeah.
Are the tenants out of that house?
Tenants are out. Yeah, the house is vacant now. So.
Finally.
So yeah, I did like virtual staging on the pictures. I could see me bringing in real furniture. We just don't get enough showings. The neighborhood is just a little rough.
Yeah, that neighborhood over there. I know exactly what you're talking
He
about.
still needs to come down on pricing, but just a little hard-headed.
Where do you think it needs to be?
Right now it's at 310. I really think it just needs to be at 299, which seller English is his second language, and he's also never sold a house before, and he insists that if he lists at 310, then people will offer 310. And I was like, that's not really how it works. You know, we list at 310, we'll be lucky to get an offer at like 280.
And they obviously don't have any kind of mortgage payment on it or anything like that.
I think he owes like $40,000. Like, it's very little. They inherited the property from their dad. Previous tenants have been paying like $900 a month to rent it for like the last 20 years. Anyway, so yeah, I put in a tremendous amount of work into staging and landscaping stuff, and I just think that's super important. I mean, my brand is on this house, and I don't want to be known as a person who sells shit. And if there's a realtor who's refusing to do any of that, I feel bad for the seller.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think they're getting the best service. Because if that realtor is refusing to help at all when it comes to staging or tidying up the house or help him eat, I mean, I don't care if the realtor does it themselves or they pay for somebody, but I think they need to pitch in and help. Landscaping and stuff. Or pressure washing, that's another one I do a lot of. Then I just can't imagine they're spending any money on marketing or anything else.
Right.
And those are probably the same agent. Those are the same agents who aren't answering the phone when it rings when someone's trying to show their properties.
What do you think the mindset of that agent is?
In a lot of cases, they're listing a property because they know the owner of the house, and they're saying, well, they're not going to list it with anybody else, so I'm just going to like half-ass it.
Interesting.
Or they think it's good enough. I think everyone just kind of has a different opinion of what's good enough. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd like to know, because I talk to agents on a semi-regular basis about their business, and I talk to a lot of agents that are, listing, and they'll say, yeah, I've had this listing on forever, and I'm shocked at the amount of times I'll ask, like, well, what have you done? Like, what do you think needs to be done? They're like, maybe if we cleaned up, or maybe if we did this, or it's like, okay, well, if you consider doing that, and they're like, the sellers don't want to do anything like that. I'm like, they don't want to do anything like that, like they don't want to pay for it, or they don't want to do anything like that. They're like, they don't want to pay for it. I'm like, well, why don't you? Right? If you really believe that that's what it's going to take to get this property sold, and you have a general idea of what you're going to make when the property is sold, as far as the commission is concerned, like, put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, I throw in money into almost every deal. So I won't take a listing under, my set 3% fee unless this listing were to be, $2 million and up, then we could talk. And I won't take a buyer for, a negotiated rebate up front because almost every single deal I end up throwing money into it.
Mm-hmm.
Our buyer that we have closing today,
Yeah.
Emily, fantastic. I love her. She's been great. She didn't ask for any rebates, but she wanted a whole bunch of repairs done by the seller. The seller said no. I said, look, let me just have my contractor do it, fully expecting that the quote for all the work was going to be like $1,200. It was like $2,600. I'm still going to pay for it for her.
Wow. Well, that's very generous of you.
And I don't want her to know what the price was. I'm just letting her know that it's done.
How do you know she's not going to watch this podcast?
Oh, that's fine. I hope she does. But yeah, she's been fantastic. And I mean,
Chase, have you ever had to, or excuse me, Lex, have you ever had to pay anything out for a lease?
No.
No?
I will say, actually, I know this should probably be reversed, but again, I'm very people oriented. And my first rental client, also my first client pretty much ever.
Yeah.
She actually ended up at the end of her moving in and everything, actually ended up giving me a gift.
Wow.
Just because of like, okay, so I don't know.
What did you get?
A bottle of wine and a cute little card.
That is cute.
It was very cute. I mean, the card obviously means way more than the wine because I will, but thanks for the wine. Anyways, but I mean, I guess, of course, starting out, you're kind of limited. So it's kind of just like use what you can. And what I can is just like empathy and compassion. Just because, I mean, it was like a $1,400 rental. She had not good credit. She had to end up getting a cosigner. So, and she, was just very stressed out. She had to move immediately. Like where she was currently living, they were like pretty much kicking her out because I think they were selling it or something. But they were like kicking her out, so she just had to move immediately. And I just like constantly, just like bunch of compassion, just was constantly there for her. Like even just like outside of house stuff, just was being there for her, like as a person, because she was very concerned. She's like, I'm so sorry, I'm dumping on this. I'm like, that's what I'm here for. Like that's what I'm here for. So just, I don't know, really focusing on that and giving that, investing in that. It actually, just I got a gift from that.
I love that.
Yeah, I guess. And yeah. And I still keep in contact with her. I do keep in touch, asking her how she's doing and stuff. And she's not even due for another lease till like April or something. But
I wonder if she could buy a home.
Hopefully.
Right?
Yeah. Regardless. Yeah. I guess so far with rentals and stuff, it's just a lot more like investing and like just trying to like be the best like possible like point of contact as much as I can.
Speaking of rentals, where's my girl Alexa been?
oh, she's around. I mean, she's also on vacation constantly and in pickleball and the gym. She's around.
I saw her in the gym on her video recently. She's getting into like heavy lifting.
Yeah.
What I would do to have as much time as she has.
We got to get her here for the holiday party. I'm going to reach out to her. Alexa, I'm going to try to get this edited and posted. We need you here.
Yeah. And we need to play pickleball.
And don't let Kemps try to make money off her.
Yeah. I don't know what they have going on.
He contacted her. And
well, he was asking me about lease stuff in regards to, I don't know exactly what he was looking to do. He was basically trying to figure something out in a way with lease buyers, but I don't know what it was.
Yeah, he contacted her and tried to, suck business out of her. And I was like, no.
Well, he's trying to.
You don't talk to him.
he's trying to figure out a way to maybe, and this is a nice segue because I want both of your opinion on this. He's trying to figure out a way to maybe, convince his team to do a little more in regards to leases because it does turn into buyers. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, 1,000%.
Yeah.
I have nothing better to say about that, but absolutely.
Well,
yeah.
and I'm pretty sure that's what the conversation was about. He was just looking for like tips and tricks that he could basically, sell off to his team because there are two agents on the team that are a little more interested than some of the others about doing the lease stuff, and it's not really his cup of tea personally.
I feel like I know who one of them is, at least. Yeah, I mean, morning reading a book on my patio, vibing, chilling. Just had like a random thought because I'm just like, how do we get more lease listings? Because I like just had that idea. I was like, I feel like if we could get lease listings when it's slow, like if we can get them because obviously, yes, like you're gonna, put a lot more money into something that's gonna sell, but lease listings maybe not as much. So it's a little bit easier to take on, question mark. So I just like texted Chase and I was like, what do you think about if we found a way, like, is there a way to like get more lease listings, just like a website, just to like pretty much offer leasing or listing services for free, in exchange for pretty much just business and recommendations? And Chase was like, absolutely. And so he was in the, what's his name? David?
I'll tell you what happened. So I took Lex's idea one step further, and I said, I think this is a great idea because lease listings get us new leads, and we know what they're looking for already. So what if I just targeted the highest end lease listings, specifically in areas that I was interested in farming, and offered to list it for free? In exchange, I get to do all the marketing for it. I get to keep any leads that come from it. And if I end up representing the tenant, then the landlord would still have to pay my fee. So I'm not going to say the source just in case someone listened to this, but I contacted owners of properties that were available for rent at very high prices, but not listed by an agent, and FLBOs. And I said, hey, I would love to market this on MLS, and I would syndicate it to 10 plus real estate websites, as well as run your Zillow for you, as well as do all the showings at this property for you. In exchange, I would like to have my sign out in front of it. If the property was on a busy street. If it wasn't on a busy street, I'm not going to spend the money to put a sign out there. But, and I would like to, be able to keep any lead that comes from it. I also want other agents to be able to show the property, and whoever ends up representing the tenant, whether it's me from someone that I gather or another agent, then you would pay that person the 30% of first month's rent as you would. And I mean, I think very first day I sent off one message and got two listings from it, a $6,850 one and a $2,950 one.
Nice.
And yeah, I had a $3,800 one that we just rented. That landlord, we ended up representing the tenants, and then that landlord is now shopping for like $1 million house that
very nice
that he can also use as an investment property. So I figured anyone who comes in through those ads, if they have a budget, north of $3,000 a month, well, they'll eventually be a buyer. They're probably renting, since they're new here. And for almost all these people, that's been the case. They're new here and they're just renting until they end up buying. So,
and do we have Lex on this too?
Yeah. I just scheduled a showing for him like 1 minute ago.
Look at that.
During this podcast. So, yeah, I mean, the other most important part is staying in front of all of these showings. So I'm making a great relationship with the landlord who owns at least that one property, if not others. Mm-hmm. So they're a proven investor. I'm trying to make a relationship with the people who see the properties, and then we'll either get a lease or future sales or both out of it.
I love it. Today's the 19th of December. Right? Which means that we have 11 days left for the year.
Yikes.
No, wait, 12. Are we in the 12 days of Christmas?
Stop. No, Christmas is next week.
All right. Anyway.
12 days of next year.
What is one thing business related, not personal? What is one thing business related that you intend to either change or do in 2025?
JC, you want to go first?
I want to be extremely meticulous on cost, not spend any money where I don't see value in it. This is one of those industries that $20 you a month to death. Mm-hmm. And I think I have a tremendous number of subscriptions to things that need to be canceled. I'm not getting sucked into any other Realtor.com, any kind of crap like that. But I say this at the start of every single year. I want to be more active and meet more people. And I mean, I definitely meet well over 200-300 people a year. I want to make sure to keep all those connections. Usually at the start of every year, I join something new like improv class or stand-up comedy class, kickball team, all that kind of stuff. I want to keep that going and join some new stuff at the start of the year. So I think doing what's worked for me is meeting people.
Yep.
At the baseline, that's what everybody's trying to do as a realtor is just meet people.
Yeah.
And controlling the budget, very hard. Also, I want to sell my investment property that's on the market right now and go do another flip.
Okay.
I have love-hate relationships with flips, but they've been good to me so far. Are you your turn?
Okay. I guess kind of building on that a little bit. I want to obviously being a new agent, also being able to work with an amazing agent here in Austin, Texas. I feel like I've kind of been under the privilege of being able to kind of have his mentorship, leadership, and also being able to be kind of more behind the scenes and kind of hands off when it comes to building my own brand and building my own business. So either honing down on that, and we had a great lunch this morning with some people from a title company. Great.
Crystal Sandoval and Kelly Murphy from WFG National.
There you go. Give them a shout out.
Yeah,
I want them on the pod in January. They were a blast.
But we're talking about giving great marketing opportunities, marketing classes and stuff. So really honing in on my personal brand as a realtor and kind of me maybe cultivating more social media presence. And stuff, and or kind of just exploring my options in the industry in general. Of course, I'd like to stay licensed. It was not easy to get this license. But I also kind of like the idea of just kind of flirting around with just other parts of the industry, becoming a TC or just really learning little different niches in the industry that will just make me a better, well-rounded agent. I guess. Question mark. Yeah.
For me, it's kind of a combination of what both of you are saying. So the first one is that I have a couple of things that I'm, subscription-wise, CRMs, things like that I feel like I need to take a deeper dive into and really make a decision as to whether or not I'm going to lean in and use them to their full potential or I'm going to cut them. And so that's one thing I definitely want to do. And then the second piece of it, and this is something that I haven't done in a few years, my consumer direct marketing, and by marketing I just mean, my focus has been very limited in the last few years. The majority of my focus consists of connecting with real estate agents, financial advisors, and industry professionals and figuring out ways that we can drum up new business. What I don't do, because it kind of is the part of the business that I hate the most, is going after a consumer directly and saying, hey, I'm a loan officer, do you need a mortgage? Right? Because the only people that you generally attract when you do that is people who are just like, what's your rate? What's your payment? They don't see any value in anything else, and you become a big-time commodity. The piece that I feel like I'm missing, though, by not going consumer direct, and again, I want to make it a very small piece of my business, is just, number one, being, equipped for those conversations. And then number two, being able to generate self-sufficient leads that aren't generated by referrals from agents, referrals from past clients, and referrals from, I guess what would be other industry professionals, right? Not that there's anything wrong with those. Those are my favorite. But I feel like if you're not hitting all facets, the market changes all the time. And I think for me, the consumer direct, the idea, big picture, is it's an opportunity for me to connect with other agents because most people come with an agent already. So I can reach, a new group of agents through a potential buyer. And then ideally, I would love to start being a better referral partner to some of the people who refer business to me by finding buyers that are unrepresented and getting those over to real estate agents that have been good to me in the past. That's my 2025 goal.
I feel like the toughest part is determining, let's say you do find an right, an unrepresented buyer, who do you give it to? That's the toughest part.
Not necessarily. The first thing for me is always going to be personality, then proximity, and then from there, is really just going to come down to who has been a good referral partner, right? I would say of the people that I get more than 2 or 3 transactions from a year, is that number of people is very, very small. I do close to 100 transactions a year, and 90% of those are from real estate agents that refer. And I would say probably 80% of them are an agent that gives me like 1 deal a year.
Interesting.
Yeah. It is very unusual that I am getting more than like, if you're sending me 2 transactions, like 1 is normal, 2 is good. If you're sending me 3 or more transactions a year, you are like a top tier agent to me.
I feel bad if I'm not getting you like 5 a year.
No, you do a great job. I mean, you're in like you're by far in like my top 5, maybe even top 3.
Interesting. See, I guess I thought everyone was sending you so much more.
No.
So why would someone only send you 1 a year? Are they?
I'm glad you asked. Yeah. So the reason is, and this is something that so it's no secret that, my significant other is a real estate agent. And the reason that this is important that I point this out is because the majority of agents that are out there, regardless of, and this is, I used to think it was because of their like level of experience or time in the industry, but it has nothing to do with it. I have seen super successful agents with multiple years that do not believe, I don't know if it's conviction or they don't care, but they don't believe that they can get clients because the line I hear all the time is most of my clients already have a pre-approval, right? And I don't get to hear those conversations and I don't get to see the objections, right? But then once I started being in a relationship with a real estate agent, of course, when you're, intimate with somebody and you're together in a relationship, you're really going out of your way to try to get those buyers to work with your preferred lender, not only because you like them, you want to see them succeed, they're going to do a good job, but you really, really give a shit, right? And I am here to tell you that most agents don't give a shit. And I think it's a combination of they don't see the benefit that's in it for them. And then the number 2 is I don't know if they just I don't know. The juice isn't worth the squeeze for them because the agents that really, really, like, you're one of them, Kemp's is one of them, James does really well, and Ina, and that's about it. That is about it. And I'm sorry if I didn't mention you on that list, but like the amount of transactions that they're doing versus the amount of transactions that I'm seeing is very skewed. And what's interesting about it is, again, I thought, man, it's just really tough. If somebody's got that Bank of America approval and they're like, no, Chase, I'm sorry, I just love Bank of America. I really thought it's got to be difficult. But then again, you connect with these other agents who really, really care, and they make it fucking happen every single time. And the buyers aren't like offended. They're not like, oh, Chase was so pushy, he told me I had to work with you. Nobody's ever called me and said that. And so that's what's really, to answer your question, like, I wonder why. I mean, those are the 2 things I've identified. I don't know the why behind it.
Yeah, see, I mean, I would love to meet a buyer who is already pre-approved before I met them. I don't know, I'm like trying to think of my entire history. I think I've met maybe 1 or 2 buyers who already had a pre-approval, and that's because they had already been shopping with another realtor, and they decided, hey, I don't like this realtor anymore, or, we've been passively shopping for 2 years. I didn't find anything I want to buy. Now I met you and I want to work with you. But it's any new buyer who calls me, ready to start shopping, they always say, okay, what's the next step? And I say, I'm going to connect you with my go-to loan officer. I work about saying I work about 30 feet away from him has been the biggest connection point, because now they're like, oh, well, this can be such a seamless process, which it is. I love that I don't have to call you. I just walk right over.
Right.
And I always say, disclaimer, you don't have to work with them. I can't force you to work with anybody. What I can tell you is if you want to work with Rocket Mortgage, Better Mortgage. There's one other. I forgot who it was. There's another big box coming.
Loan Depot, Quicken Loans. Yeah.
Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage are the same thing. But if you want to work with one of these two, I'm going to really, really, really not like you.
Right.
But I always say, hey, just give him a shot. I said he'll sell himself. If you want to go shopping after, I didn't tell you to, but you do you. And I mean, you'll sell yourself. I mean, there will always be those people that have to shop you. So the only case I wouldn't be closing a buyer with you would be if that person needed shop, or if they end up with a new builds lender and their incentives are just crazy.
I mean, if it wasn't for you and the other people that I just made mention of, I would believe that it was just very, very, it was just difficult. But I know now it's wildly skewed, man. It's crazy.
But I feel like these other agents, like they must get a new buyer and they say, okay, go get pre-approved, bye. What?
Well, and that's what's interesting. I would love to know because, of course, like I don't want to corner anybody, but I also don't mind being, direct. And so when I ask, like, hey, because I'll pull agents' production in front of them, and I'll be like, hey, you had a great year this year. You did like $6 million. In a 50-50 split, it was $3.5 million worth of purchases. You had like 5 buyers and not one of them went to, here's the part that drives me crazy because I can see the other lenders that they're sending them to. And if somebody is sending something to another lender, then I'm not even, look, you've got a relationship with them. Like we know somebody who has been very direct with me and is like, look, I have a preferred lender. This is who I like to work with.
We can use names. We know who it is.
The wonderful and amazing Nicole Sislin.
How did I already know?
And her great friend, Mark Smith.
Yep. And that's totally cool, right? I'm not a home wrecker. I'm just, and I'm always like, hey, girl, if things don't work out between you and Mark, call me. But that to me is like, okay. But it is shocking to me the amount of agents that I have a great relationship with. And I'll look and they've done like, 6, 7, 8, 10 buy-side transactions. And it's me and like 9 other lenders. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why are we not getting these buyers over? Why am I not able to work these? And they're like, oh, well, they just come pre-approved and everything happens so fast. So maybe it's just like sloppiness?
Or like, they just don't care to like make the effort.
Yeah, I was thinking I had one this year that came with a pre-approval from, it was a VA lender.
USAA or Navy Fed or something.
It wasn't Navy Fed, but it was really close. Oh, Navy Fed is now on my list of people I don't touch.
I know.
Because they wrecked a deal for me. Close. I want to call it Veterans United. Is that a place?
That's one.
And the only reason he didn't want to talk to anyone else, he's like, you don't understand. This guy has been contacting me every week for the last 4 years. I feel like I just have to.
Right.
And then at the end of the process, he's like, this lender has been the worst thing to ever happen in my life. He's like, this guy calls me 10, 15 times a day. And I'm like, you're joking. And like, he shows me his call log. I'm like, what is going on here? He's like, he just calls to check up once an hour for the last 4 weeks.
You kind of got me thinking now. And I think what it might be is that
you don't bother people enough.
No. I think that there are agents out there that are not because they're lazy, but are just so afraid of a deal falling apart that like they meet a buyer, they don't want to have that conversation about pre-approval. They're tiptoeing around, they're doing everything, and then as soon as like, they're like, all right, well, we need a pre-approval letter. So like I got a lender you could call and here's his information, but like we need some sort of pre-approval letter. And they're really just like, they're not trying to, do anything extra because they're just afraid that, because I know these agents, I feel like there are agents out there that are they find a buyer. You remember the cartoon, not the Looney Tunes, but remember when they were kids?
Oh, Rugrats.
No. And the Looney Tunes as kids.
Oh, yeah. Like it was like a spinoff.
Yeah.
But like the Baby Tunes or something.
And then you remember the character Elvira.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And she'd like, everyone would get scared because she would come in. She's like in a baby doll outfit and she'd like grab the animals and love them and squeeze them. And like their eyes would pop out and stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I feel like there's agents like that where when they find a buyer, they are like, they're more afraid of losing it than closing it. Like the fear of losing that buyer is just like so paralyzing. And they're just waiting for the other shoe to drop every single time. So like taking any sort of lead or making any sort of suggestion or anything like that is like, that's the only other thing I could think.
I find that buyers would rather someone who's going to be more direct and coach them than one who's not going to do anything. And because at the end of the process, they're either going to tell you that they felt like their realtor didn't do anything for them.
How often do you hear that?
All the time.
Right.
Or they're going to say, oh my God, Chase was a lifesaver. Thank God I had him on my side.
Right.
And so, I mean, I'm never going to annoy someone just to annoy them. I make an effort if someone's, in the process of shopping to touch base with them once a week, unless they've told me, hey, I'm taking a break from shopping for now. And then I make it less regular. But I want to make sure when I follow up, I'm giving them something of value, some reason to be contacting them.
You've also made a good point, though. Like, you have a conviction of using a lender that you like to work with, meaning like you believe in it because you've done enough transactions that you've got people on what you call your list of lenders that you just cannot stand.
Same with every vendor.
And I'm wondering if it's possible that maybe some of these agents, they just haven't had enough horror stories. And so they kind of just, know.
Well, are you saying that they don't have like any fidelity? Like they're using like 9 different?
That's my point.
Zero loss.
See,
Because
then,
again,
yeah.
like if we're talking about a Nicole system where I'll pull production, I'll see what's going on. And if there's multiple deals going to another loan officer, that's a completely different situation because now I'm like, oh, well, you do have a relationship with another lender. And that's totally cool. And I applaud you for like creating a relationship to create a good experience for your buyers. I wish it was me. It's okay that it's not.
Call me though.
Call me, right? If he treats you bad, you let me know. But no, it's not that. It's like multiple transactions, multiple lenders. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something. Or even just like it's like an extra step,
Right.
Like,
But I think that's what makes the process just go better is say,
Of course.
okay, we've sat down for our meeting. You sit down with the lender. You get there is a flow chart. I would just be so clueless if I told the buyer, hey, go get pre-approved. Good luck. Come back to me after. What?
Well, I'm here to tell you that I don't know if that's exactly what's happening, but something
They're
to
more
that
likely
effect
to
is
lose
happening.
the deal by not holding on to the person.
But then it's not their fault because we've talked about that. The fear of referring vendors and then something going wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it does make me very scared to hand off a referral to especially a contractor type of person. No one's ever had an issue with any inspector I've referred or any lender that I've referred. It's been fine.
Right.
Because I've only referred 2 of them.
Right.
I had my go-to guy. He got out of the business, and now I've had you. My buyers who have had issues with their transaction, they went with their own budget lender. But same with the title. I've never had an issue with any title company. But if I had one that gave me issues, I'd remember.
They give us issues, man. It's titles a hell of a thing for a lender.
But yeah, what's definitely scared me is when I introduce a client to a contractor and that contractor did not perform as expected. So I always tell them ahead of time, like, hey, since you're doing this big remodel job, this is a person I've used. I'm not going to say he's perfect. I want you to interview him if you want, and then maybe interview some other people. And then if it's something tiny, I'll say, hey, you should just go on TaskRabbit. Just get a guy.
Yeah, find a guy.
You're trying to change a garbage disposal. You don't need a general contractor.
Yeah,
just
I agree.
go on TaskRabbit.
What else do we need to cover, gentlemen?
What's
This was our impromptu.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got another.
Well, I'll tell you one
10
thing
minutes.
that we can cover quickly because this is the only reason that I'm clock watching here is because tomorrow we are having our weekly barbecue and mingle. and we have a 23-pound brisket that is currently on the smoker. And I'm sure it's just fine right now, but that's why I'm clock watching.
Hey. I would say for our last 10 minutes, since this is our last episode of the year, I feel like we've done a little year recap, but do we have any 2025 foreshadowing? Any ideas of what you're expecting? Maybe not even in market or rates, or just what you think is going to go on in
Can we
the
talk
real.
about TikTok and how that's going to affect
Hey,
things?
let's talk.
Let's TikTok.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's talk.
I don't know. I just I feel like that's going to be a huge shakeup.
I agree.
That's it's a whole economic system right there. I mean, our girl Alexa gets a bunch of leads from that.
All of
how
her
is
leads.
how is losing TikTok gonna affect the real estate industry? It's got to so much. I mean, the real estate industry and then everything else too. There's so much e-commerce done on TikTok.
Is it possible, though, that it's going to be one of those things that at the 11th hour, they're going to be like, okay, we're going to let it go?
I have a feeling
I think it's already
keeps
signed
getting
and sworn.
pushed.
That's what I heard. It's
Okay.
I've already heard that it's already signed and sworn, just has a date for it to go into effect. I haven't fact checked it though, so
Maybe TikTok will come out with another type of TikTok for just the U.S. or something.
Yeah, so what I was expecting would happen was, their issue was it was a Chinese company, China was keeping all the whatever tax dollars from it, and there was some
It's
privacy
data, too.
issues.
Yeah, the privacy was the big thing.
And so they said you need to sell 50% of your company to an American company. I thought what they would do, their American office here in Austin, I thought they'd make TikTok America.
Right.
Split the company in half. Easy enough. You pay taxes for half of it to the U.S., half to China. You're good. You abide by the U.S. privacy laws. I'm surprised they haven't done that yet. But I think they'll realize...
Something tells me TikTok's not going away.
Really?
I don't think so either.
Does that make you happy?
It does. Yes.
All right. It's going to be okay.
Are we sure?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, there's just too much money and influence, to your point, that is, circulating dollars that it might change, but it's certainly not going to go away. It'll exist in some capacity.
Yeah, well, okay, let's think about if it actually did go
Yeah.
away. This actually, I just find this really interesting, how much business is done from it, not just from content creators, but from all the advertising, all of the, branding and stuff, the amount of restaurants and realtors and, salespeople of every sort that use it as their main marketing platform.
I think people just would migrate back to the other two forms of social media, which is Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, but we've had those for forever. I feel like TikTok has proven to be extremely innovative, in its own way. Mostly because of the e-commerce aspect. You have people that are making a living off of TikTok, not being influencers. But I get so many TikToks of them advertising beef jerky.
Yeah, TikTok shop
That's
is
still influencing, though.
Well, but they're because they're you just have those random people that are just I guess it's influencing, but still, they're just making TikTok commercials to get people to the TikTok shop to buy this product because it gives them commission.
Right.
People you have stay-at-home moms that are doing that just for side income.
which I think is awesome. And why am I
You
not
can't do that on Facebook.
doing UGC or whatever they call that, content creation in the real estate space? I'm not sure what items on the TikTok shop could be used by realtors, but
More lifetime banners.
I think it's so. Oh man, when I went to Inman, I watched this entire, and I've talked about this, and I'll try to be quick. They talked about homes that are, what do they call those homes that are built by a robot? 3D printed homes, right?
oh yeah, Leonard Wolf Creek.
Right. And so I watched this whole presentation, and after the presentation was completed, in my opinion, what I identified was there was nothing really new about what they were doing. They're showcasing a home as if it's a product that is new and exciting and built with a material that doesn't exist. And none of that I just said is true. What is true is that they've invented a new tool that builds houses, right? And why I think that's important is because new tools are built every single day. There's new drywall tape machines. There's there's even new drywall, right? And so I thought it was very interesting because, in my opinion, again, the whole 3D printed home thing is nothing more than selling the sizzle, not the steak, right? The steak has always existed. You're selling the ambiance. You don't, I can go to Texas Roadhouse and I can get a damn good ribeye for $25, or I can go downtown to, Dean's Steakhouse, and almost same cut of meat, and it's 4 times the amount because I'm paying for the ambiance. I'm downtown. I'm going to get much better service, so on and so forth. So going back to TikTok with influencers and everything along those lines, the one thing that I was thinking a lot about of recently, we have a few influencers on here, is I was having a conversation about bigger aspirations in regards to influencing. And when I started kind of thinking about it as if I were an influencer, ultimately as an influencer, all you really are is a business development rep for a product that you don't technically work for, right? So like you're a promoter.
You're an apartment locator.
That's always existed, right? It's always existed. And so when we're talking about things like, oh, you've got housewives at home that are promoting products and making money, we talk about it on the surface level as if it's something new and innovative. It's not. It's always existed, right? I mean, think about Avon, right?
Right, but the style of it, the convenience of it, you can't be a stay-at-home mom doing. I mean, I guess you can probably, but like like just like recording
stay-at-home
videos
moms
from your like
killed it at
whereas
Mary
Avon,
Kay.
you're
That's
like
what I mean. Mary Kay,
but
Tupperware,
they're hosting all these parties
Etsy
and they're
stuff.
like they're like planning
Sure.
all around it. I mean, these people can have like back content, like built, so like
The party has gone virtual.
the party has gone virtual.
And I understand that. And there's multiple platforms that allow for it. And furthermore, if you wanted to, you could create your own platform, right? I guess what I'm trying to say is like people have conversations about certain things as if like it's new. And I think that we want it to be new. I think we want it to be something exciting and new. I mean, if I have to hear the word unprecedented again, I'm so fucking sick of that word. Like there are very few things that are unprecedented. And I will tell you, I've heard unprecedented an unprecedented amount of times in the last 3 to 5 years. And people act like everything's new. And it's not. It's just not. The whole TikTok thing, I will again say I think that there's way too much money for anyone to just squash it out. It's not gonna happen. And I don't mean to the housewife, I just mean in general. But yeah, from an influencer standpoint, yes, the party has gone virtual. Totally agree. But it's the same shit, right? It's people promoting products and getting paid to do it. Like there's not a company out there right now, even before TikTok, that wasn't going to allow me, like I could go to fucking HEB right now and probably put together a contract that says, hey, I'm going to promote HEB. Will you pay me a commission for every single client that comes in and says, here's my promo code, right? I could have done that 10 years ago, right? So it's always existed. And I find it interesting that people find ways to make money and they're more excited about making the money in a way that they think is innovative when in reality, it's like all you had to do is start fucking working. Right? But it feels cooler when you're like, I'm an influencer. It's like, no, you're not. You're a promotional sales rep.
Yeah, but what would you say about like the accessibility of it? Like, yeah, you have to start working, but like can just this is work now.
Yeah, but you have to go places, right? You have to order these products. You can't just like, again, going back to some of the influencers I know, we should have Anthony back on here because the conversation I had with him, you have no idea.
It's time to have Rachel.
You have no idea how much work.
I bet there is.
You have no idea. You think it's like, oh, I'm just sitting at home being a housewife. Like it's a job.
Well, I was saying that in regards to like the people that are like on TikTok Live and the people that are literally just finding any and every product they can. Have you seen those TikToks?
I have, but a lot of those.
As far as becoming like an influencer and building a following and all that stuff, oh yeah, they do way more work.
And keep in mind, a lot of those products when they're doing like the box openings and stuff like that, a lot of those are not even getting paid to do. They're trying to gain the following that way and then go from there. So that, but all of this has existed before, right? My dad, one of his first jobs was a business development rep for Oscar Mayer.
Did he drive the truck?
We always had big blow up wieners all around the house and everything like that. And, like. You could, no, this was fucking like 35 years ago. But you get my point. Like, he was literally a influencer for Oscar Mayer.
Wow. Okay.
BLONGNA.
Bologna. Oh, Bologna. Bologna.
Yeah, I remember that truck, like Oscar Mayer truck, driving in like
see
parades and stuff.
I used to have a little Hot Wheel of it.
The more things change, the more they stay the same, right?
Ooh,
that's deep.
What song is that?
I don't know. Everybody says it.
Taylor, if you're listening, new
That
lyrics.
was I think it was Gypsy Road by Cinderella.
It's possible. I mean, it's a saying old as time, but
The Gypsy Road can't take me home.
this is how we always usually, or not always, but usually finish up. Is,
Any big predictions for start of the year? I guess mostly in the real estate space, but I don't know.
I actually said this today because we just had the Fed cut the funds rate, and it really kind of fucked up interest rates. So the Fed came out ultimately, and Jerome Powell basically said, "Hey, Merry Christmas, we're going to cut the rate." And the only reason that I think he did it was because he didn't want to freak anybody out. Because in my opinion, the Fed doesn't necessarily have any reason to cut rate because inflation is not where we need it to be. Things aren't out of control, but they're definitely running a little bit hot. So,
And the employment rate is good.
right, which
We
is
need
not
the unemployment rate to go up.
correct. And so, long story short, like the Fed alluded to the fact that they had intentions of doing, more rate cuts than they're probably going to end up doing in reality in 2025. And so because of that, things are going to remain a little bit stagnant. I think 25 is going to be a very similar year to 24 in respect to the economy and the marketplace and everything along those lines. The only thing that, is always on the table is for anything economically to kind of spill over. If something breaks, is what they like to say, the Fed can always step in and do emergency rate cuts. Do I think that's going to happen? No. Do I think it's impossible? Absolutely not. I mean, we are definitely in muddy waters, and the possibility of an emergency rate cut in 2025, although not probable, is definitely possible. But I think what is more probable is to have a very mirrored image of what we experienced in 2024.
So as far as mortgage aside, but just real estate.
Well, this is the economy in general.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm talking about the big picture.
For sure. Do you expect that the buyers who've been sitting on the fence since 2023 are going to finally take their leap off?
So my short answer is yes. And the reason why is because one of the things that I have identified, being in the business for a long time, is a lot of what and I said this as early as 2021, is when we eliminate uncertainty in this business, people start to move. And what I mean by that is like we saw so much volatility between 2021 and basically 2023. Rates were going up, they were going down, they were going all over the place, and they just really couldn't get to a situation where things stayed kind of consistent. That consistency doesn't have to be a low rate for the client to feel confident in moving forward. It just has to be consistent. And so we've seen some consistency, debatably, basically since about July. And if my prediction holds true with the probability that 25 will mirror 24, the consistency of interest rates will remain the same. And therefore, clients will come off of the fence because the uncertainty is gone. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I'm actually writing down a quote you just said because I thought that was really good. It's actually going under my machi order.
So yes, I do think that you will see buyers come off of the fence, and it's not because rates have gone down, but because it's conditioning. I think that's the best way to put it. The buyer is going to be more conditioned to say, nothing's changed in a while.
Now or never. Yeah.
Well, it's what are we waiting for?
Right.
Right? And that is what always has driven the marketplace is, one of the things that I say when we talk about making an offer on a property, what does a seller really, really want when they're selling their house? People will always say, oh, they want the highest price. Oh, or they want the biggest offer. Oh, they want, maybe they want a quick closing, or, oh, maybe they want a long lease back because they got to build. I will tell you, the number one thing that a seller wants is a guarantee close. They want a guarantee, right? Everything else comes after that because you can get the highest offer. Can you guarantee it's going to close? Or, yeah, I got the lease back that I wanted, but can you guarantee my money to me? That's why cash buyers in this marketplace typically get better deals, not because of any other reason other than the seller looks at the property, looks at the offer and says, they're cash. The money's there. It's already there. It's a guarantee, right?
Yeah.
So when clients feel more confident in a guarantee in regards to what they're getting, meaning if we talk about rates, for example, or even purchase prices, if things aren't going to move and the data shows that things aren't going to move dramatically, pretty much guaranteed for the next couple months or even year, those guarantees make people feel a lot more comfortable and confident moving forward. Period.
Yeah,
Mic drop.
that's great. When I worked at Fly Homes, our buyers had, like, we were kind of an innovative real estate startup where our buyers had some different options as far as purchasing. One was the all cash offer, and that's what kind of got the company more popularity. But they also had this other product, a guaranteed offer, where they weren't fronting any cash. They just said, basically, if our buyer pulls out, we buy the house.
Right.
Done. And we will come in and purchase it, then we'll sell it later, whatever we have to do. And that costed the buyer no additional money, whereas a cash offer did.
Mm-hmm.
Almost every buyer would choose this option that we never advertised, a guaranteed offer, because the seller would say, okay, that's just as good as cash. Your appraisal comes in short. Anything happens, we know it's covered.
Yep.
So, yeah, I wrote down the quote. You said, when we eliminate uncertainty, people start to move.
Yep.
And that brings me back to those agents that are like, as soon as they have the buyer consultation, they say, okay, yeah, go get pre-approved with somebody. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, now you're just giving them more uncertainty.
You're inviting uncertainty.
I want to give them the certainty of knowing, hey, this guy always works for me. He does a fantastic job. I've never had anyone ever complain about him.
Right.
This is who I think you should use.
Yeah.
I want to give you certainty.
And that's a good point, and I'm going to use that because that is what I want to not only, try to provide to the buyer and the seller, but yeah, maybe to the real estate agent. It's like, why are you just going with whoever your buyers move forward with? Isn't that inviting uncertainty into the equation in general?
Yeah, the transaction will give us uncertainty. Things come up. Mm-hmm. I tell buyer there's no such thing as a perfect transaction. Some problem will come up. But anything that I can do to keep it certain, using my preferred vendors who I know how they work and I know how they communicate, at least I can provide the most amount of certainty I can.
Yeah.
Knowing that, sure, anything could come up in the inspection. The seller could throw us any curveball they want, but I'm going to do all I can to make this as streamlined as possible.
How was your first podcast?
It's cherry popped.
Boom. Love it.
I was waiting to have him on until he was a little more going
established.
that way. But
Yeah, but I mean,
the beautiful thing about this room, you can always come back.
That's right.
wait, love that.
So before we sign off here, I just wanted to get your thoughts. There is a part of me, and it's a very small part of me, because to your point of budgeting and everything along those lines, I'm thinking about changing a few things in the room. Maybe bringing in some furniture and just switching out some of the things, not because I dislike this setup by any means, but just to get some new things on camera. What are your thoughts on that?
I would love the idea of, instead of table, we had 4 chairs.
Okay.
You could get some different angles, and then if someone wanted to have, something that happens on a table, we could always, readjust.
Well, I think we should talk more about that off camera, and maybe 2025 can bring that.
Yes.
Agree?
All right, gentlemen. Well, I appreciate it.
Yes, I appreciate you. Thank
Lex
you.
will have to have you back on again, and we need to do an official market.
I agree.
All right, guys.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Oh, that was cute.
Sign off.